What's going to separate humans from the robots? And what are those skills and mindsets that no matter how fast or advanced technology gets, you always need humans in the workplace for? Yeah, what are those things that can't be coded?
What were the main ones? And then you were in charge of like teaching these skills?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, generally, in a nutshell, you want to be looking at careers or jobs or skills that involve creativity, that involve a high level of strategy, and also a high level of caring and emotional intelligence. Because these three are the hardest skills for the machines to replicate. They're already starting to catch up in terms of creativity, in terms of strategy. However, what's going to be really distinguishing us from the robots is that ability to have higher level emotional intelligence. Because, for example, empathy. Empathy is the ability to say to another human, wow, I get that. It's like, I see the world from your perspective. Like, I really get what you're going through, Aileen. Like, that sounds really frustrating. I can relate to that. It's different when it comes from a human. Like, if an AI says that, you're like, okay, but you're not human.
Yeah, you're lying.
Exactly. So that's why what I've learned, in this final phase of my career, which is after I left the university, I started my own leadership company. What I've learned is that like everyone needs these skills in the workplace. And today I work with some of the best companies in the world, whether it's like Airbus or GSK or Pfizer or, all these companies running their leadership training programs, helping their new leaders acquire these skills of how to deal with people or helping their senior leaders understand what's going on with their culture. And really, it's almost like being, the other day, one of my clients said, you're like a therapist and a shaman
Oh,
in the corporate world.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm very lucky in that I get to speak to these very interesting, exciting teams, companies all around the world, whether they're from oil and gas or finance or tech. And like the leadership teams, like confide all their problems to myself and my partner, Dr. Greg, who is a clinical psychologist. And the two of us kind of give them recommendations on like, what are the interventions that they need to do in their culture, maybe how to get people. Some of the most common problems that companies hire us to work on is like, how to make it safe for people to speak up in their culture. And that means like having a culture of psychological safety where people feel like it's okay for me to voice out. It's okay for me to challenge and, speak up. Because if you have a culture where people are not safe to speak up and admit mistakes or point out things that are going wrong, it's kind of like that Boeing documentary, where a lot of
Right.
people, they knew there were problems, but they didn't speak up because there was a culture of covering things up. So we know empirically when people don't feel safe to speak up, bad things happen. And, in many cases, like it can lead to fatalities, accidents, and really bad consequences. So a lot of companies have now cottoned on to this concept called psychological safety. And they've realized that we need to invest in this because somehow, if people don't feel safe to admit a mistake, to say something's going wrong, I want to show you something's not quite right, then actually bad things happen in companies. So that's one of the biggest. The second thing is probably like, having difficult conversations. I think a lot of people need to learn difficult conversation skills, how to talk to somebody who's agitated or angry, how to deal with a difficult situation, like giving feedback to a boss that seems to be playing favorites or doing something unfair. Generally, especially in Asia, people are not so keen on giving feedback because it's a kind of a more harmonious, non-confrontational culture. So we have a lot of demand for like courageous conversations and difficult feedback skills. And then like a lot of boundaries work as well because people don't know how to set boundaries and say no. So those are some of the popular things that like kind of like we get called in to do with individuals, leaders and companies.
Amazing. And I do want to ask you like this practical tips on all of those. But before we get into that, I want to acknowledge how amazing your story is. First of all, it's so fun to listen to you tell your story. But second of all, I love how what you do now really blends your background of both the corporate high level work as well as the therapy, the soft empathy, like that side, because you lived both lives and then you put them together to serve in such a high way. So I'm just very amazed at your story and what you've been able to do.
Oh, thank you. I kind of feel I've done it in backwards, you know. I feel like I've done my retirement at 29 and I had like 7 years of being a retiree and like, you know, on a farm. And then I'm like, I had my second wave in my mid 30s. I didn't do anything the right way because I had my kids way young in my 20s, right?
Yep.
So everybody around me, my peers, they were going off and they were like conquering the world. They were like, you know, making strides in their career. And I was having 2 kids. And then after that, when I was doing my retirement, people were like, are you crazy? Like, this is like these are the best years of your life.
Right. But look at you now, right? Like you did that and then now you came back even better.
The thing is that like with women, we have seasons. And I think like it doesn't matter so much the order in which you do your seasons. There's major advantages to having kids real young and there's advantages to having kids later in life and all of that. But I think the most important thing is like to know that you have seasons is an important thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, to understand that like I need to in this season of my life make priorities. And like I always like to say you have a stove. You have like a stove, right? And then you have like 3 or 4 burners. Like some people have more burners, like I don't know, like maybe Rachel has 5 burners, our good friend Rachel, right? You know, some
Yeah.
people only have 3 burners, right? But
Right.
like whatever, you have a limited number of burners. You have like 4 flames on top of your oven, and like you've got like 20 pots, right? And like if you try to
Yeah.
like put all the pots on, everything's going to turn out half baked.
Oh, that's such a great metaphor. Yeah, it's so true.
So for me, it's like as long as you understand the seasons, like okay, in my 20s, this is whatever. For these 3 to 5 years, I'm in the season of my career. That's going to be number one. I'm going to go and I'm going to freaking ace it, la la la. And then the next season is like, oh, now I've got young kids, and they're the number one big flame, you know.
Yep. You got to prioritize them.
And all of that,
Yeah.
you know, but like it's important as a woman to realize that society has so many expectations of us. Society has literally given us like 20 or 30 pots, you know, and to flame up. And we've only got like 3 or 4 flames. So like we need to be very, very good at organizing ourselves, prioritizing and being clear what season of life we're in. Otherwise, you know, everything will be half baked and then we'll be disappointed.
Exactly. And it's so easy to compare yourself when you see other women. They might have other pots that they're firing. But,
yes.
you know, if you look at everyone, of course, everyone looks like they have something amazing going on. But it's not everything, right? Each person just has a few.
For sure.